Hey folks! So it looks like you made it through the first unit. So now it's time to go ahead and talk about our Unit 1 project. So you're going to have a couple of days in class to work on this. And I want to go ahead and walk you through some of the expectations for this project before I set you free to do this to go and work on your own. So for a project, you're going to hop on a bike, car, or your own 2 feet and travel the country. Well, on paper, you'll travel the country. So your goal for this project is to plan a trip from Washington, D.C. through 4 of these cities listed below. And you'll have 3 possible methods of getting from one place to another. So you might wind up with taking a car, you might wind up biking, or you might wind up using your own 2 feet and taking a hike from one city to the next. So the trick for this project is that you don't get to decide where you go or how you get from place to place. Fate is going to do it for you. So for each leg of the journey, you are going to roll a 20-sided dice, and I have a link here to a 20-sided dice to determine where you'll go, and you'll use a 6-sided dice to determine how you will get there. So let's go ahead and roll our 20-sided dice and our 6-sided dice. So I rolled a 17 and a 1. So that means that I will be going from Mount Vernon High School to Indianapolis, and I will be driving. So what I'm going to do is in leg 1 of my journey, I'm going to write first my end point, which is again Indianapolis, since I rolled a 17, and how I'm going to get there, which is going to be through a car, since I rolled a 1. Now, one thing to note, this is a 6-sided dice. There's only 3 options. You'll note that next to car, bike, and your feet, there's 2 possible numbers you could roll to get that result. So I have filled out the first leg of my journey. Next, I'll figure out the next leg. So I went from DC to Indianapolis, so I'm starting my next leg in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'll roll the dice again to figure out how I'm going to get there and where I'm going to go. So I rolled a 12, and I rolled a 2. So it looks like I am going to be going to Jacksonville, Florida, and I will be biking there. Well, that's going to be a long bike ride. So Jacksonville, Florida, via bike. You're going to continue doing this until you've filled out the rest of your journey. So again, I'm going to start in Jacksonville, roll the dice to figure out where I'm going, and roll the dice to figure out how I'm getting there. Once you've filled out this table, you're ready to move on to our next table, table 2. So in this table, what you're going to do is figure out the distance that you travel, your travel time, and your speed for each leg of your journey. So for leg 1, I am going from Washington, D.C. to Indianapolis, Indiana. So I'm going to go ahead and click Google Maps. And the first thing I'm going to want to do when I go to Google Maps is click this little button here that brings me to the Directions tab. Now, I am going from DC to Indianapolis via car, so I'm going to select the car at the very top, and then I'll put in my starting point, which is Washington, D.C., and my end point, Indianapolis, Indiana. So, what you will see on my screen is the time it will take me to get there, that 9 hours and 22 minutes. And you will see the distance that I'm going to be traveling, so 576 miles. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. So for the first leg of my journey, I travel 576 miles, and it's going to take me 9 hours and 22 minutes. And I'm going to have to convert from those 22 minutes to a fraction of an hour. So what I'll do is I will divide that 22 by 60 to convert it into an hour, and I will instead say that it will take me 9.37 hours to get from DC to Indianapolis. Then I'll end this by figuring out my speed, and I'm going to leave that to you to figure out how to do. That's where the real math comes in here and the real physics. So next, once you've finished filling out all of your distances, travel times, and solving for your speeds for each leg of your journey, you're ready to move on to our last table, which is displacement and velocity. So the first thing that you can do is copy your travel times. So it's still going to take me 9.37 hours to drive from DC to Indianapolis. What's going to be different is my displacement is going to be a different number for my distance. What I'm going to use is I'm going to use this distance calculator to figure out what that difference will be. So what you'll see is that I have Washington, D.C. here. The right side, I have Seattle, Washington, and I need to put in my new place, Indianapolis, Indiana. So there we go. You'll also notice that this is toggled over to miles. If I were to click to the left, it would be in kilometers, and so my answer would be not correct. So we're going to go to miles, and I'm going to go ahead and hit show. And what I'm going to want is the distance as the crow flies, because that, of course, is my displacement. So we can see that my displacement from Washington, D.C. to Indianapolis, Indiana is 525-ish miles. So let me go ahead and put that in. I'm also going to figure out the direction of my displacement, and you guys can approximate that by looking at the map and remembering your compass directions. So north, south, east, west. So as you can see, I am moving to the north and to the west of DC. So my direction will be northwest. Again, I'm going to leave velocity for you guys to figure out. Don't forget to add in your direction, as always. Then, once you have finished everything else, doing all the calculations for all the legs of your journey, you're going to answer the following 4 questions. First, you're going to tell me your total distance traveled. Second, you'll tell me what your average speed was. Finally, you'll give me your total displacement and your average velocity. So, there you have it, guys. You have learned what I'm expecting from you with this project. Go ahead and see if you can do it on your own. And if you have questions or you need clarification, let me know. I'm always happy to help.